So we're here again. Sin City is what people call it. And there's a reason why they call it Sin City. And what we're doing here, we're talking with certain people that are experts in different fields and talking about what they're doing to make a positive impact and change on some of the things that are happening in not just here in Las Vegas, but in many different cities around the world. Today we have Annie Lobert here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here.
And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is talk about taking control of the trauma and not allowing the trauma to take control of you. And Annie's been doing some great things here. She has an anti-trafficking nonprofit organization, a safe house over here in Las Vegas, where she's able to really get people out of that mess. And this is all from real life experiences. And I want you to, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what even got you where you're at today, because you're doing some very impactful things for our community.
Thank you. Well, I got to Las Vegas from Minnesota when I was just a teenager. I had no idea that this is where my boyfriend that groomed me, and I saw red flags, by the way. Women need to pay attention to red flags. He fell in love with me really fast and said, I want to marry you. So then we flew to Las Vegas because my friend was here, and I had already learned how to sell myself. I got sexually exploited at 8, 9 years old. So I had already learned that my body was my prize. My body was my tool to make myself feel better and also to make a living off of. So as a teenager, I learned how to sell myself. And then when I met this man, I was at the strip club and we got to Las Vegas the first night that I worked. He beat me almost to death because I did not know he was a trafficker. I didn't have any, I might have had clues, but I didn't realize that he would actually have the nerve to take my money that I earned myself.
Wow.
And that night, it's like I opened, of course I'm a teenager still, my eyes opened to wickedness and evil that I never thought that I would experience. I thought I was in control. See, when you're working in the sex industry, there's this facade of you're in control, you're getting paid back for all the wrong that's been done to you. You're the queen, you're the dominance person, you control the room. When the man, when you walk into the room with the man, you tell him what price it is, when you're going to do it, what time you're going to do it, and then when you leave, you control the entire situation. But that's not is what actually happens, because some men abuse the women when you walk into the room. And some men that are boyfriends, husbands of women that are being sold, are actually traffickers. In other words, they are using force, fraud, and coercion to make this person their slave so they can control their money, their whereabouts, their entire lives, in essence. So you become a slave, and that's what I did. And the reason why that happened, it seems that I'm very intelligent, right? It seems that I have my brain and my heart connected and I'm together. But when you're void, a vacuum of love in your heart, you will do anything to keep that vacuum full of love, especially if you've never experienced it from a father. So my pimp, in essence, became my daddy and my father. And when I was with him, and here's the key word, I felt home.
Wow.
Home.
What year was this? When you
This was in 1987, 88.
87. That's the year I was born, actually.
Wow.
87. Interesting. Would you say that today, now in 2025, things have changed for the good, or do you think it's just as bad as back in the 87?
It's just as bad. It's just more exposed. The good part is exposure. Exposure of darkness, just like you're going to turn the light on. You see cockroaches and little things scurrying around. Back then, we didn't have that. Everything was underground. There was no social media. Our social media was television. Our social media was maybe an article in a newspaper, in an After Dark magazine. Now it's in your face with smartphones. We see 24/7,
everything that's happening.
15-second licks, 10-second licks. We lose our attention so quickly because we are being consumed by, obviously, social media. Because guess why? It keeps your attention. Your brain needs that stimulation to keep, when you're learning in school, what do they do in school? Way back in the day, we have books, everyone's pointing at the board, but with social media, it's a teacher. It's basically, I call it Pandora's box. And it's really funny how a certain phone company put an apple on the back of the phone, because it's exactly like the Garden of Eden, the tree of good and evil.
I've always thought that too.
Oh my gosh, you did?
It's a bitten apple.
Totally. So, but you get every flavor, every color, and that is a good and bad thing. Because when I first started working in the sex industry, no one knew this was going on. So that's why I was very naive. That's why it's so great right now. The good part of this, being on social media, doing what you're doing right now, you're giving people education to save people's lives
100%.
from death. From death. When you get, do you know that the most dangerous career for a man is in the entire world?
What's that?
He is a fisherman in the deep sea looking for crabs, right? What is the most dangerous job for a woman in the world? You already know.
Trafficking?
Prostitution.
Oh, wow.
Prostitution. And it turns into trafficking. But they say 85 to 95% to 100%. I can't say the right stats for that because it's never been really deeply studied like we want it to, is the fact that every little girl, every woman that gets into the sex industry, and little boy, by the way, they can last up to 7 years. And then the 7th year is usually the death sentence. It's an assault that they die from. It's maybe a suicide. It's an accidental overdose. It's a purposeful overdose. So there's things that happen to your brain and your mind and your body when you're being sexually abused, and sexual slavery is something that destroys the mind, body, and spirit.
No, there's got to be a tremendous amount of trauma throughout that process. What was the turning point that you experienced for you to get out of it?
So I wanted to just brag about the strength I have, because believe it or not, Sam, for the first 10 years, I did not do any drugs. I smoked pot maybe 3 times. I drank maybe once every 2 weeks, once a month. I'd celebrate with my trafficker, right? We'd bring home a big, they call it stacks and racks, a big lick. And, hundreds of thousands of dollars going through my hands, and I'm thinking I'm going to have this money one day. One day he's going to share it with me, but that never happens.
Wow.
He led me on to believe that I would be the queen of his castle. I would share in, the welfare of the sex industry, of the high-cost call girl. My hitting point and my turning point, and there were several. So it was accumulation of a bunch of rapes, a bunch of encounters with people that were violent, getting my money stolen from me, getting my money taken from me, being forced to do things I never wanted to do. But that feeling of just wanting to be home with my pimp, which was my father in all respect, was devastating. When I left him, there was a huge hole in my heart. I had to leave. I was going to die if I stayed.
Right.
And I started doing, believe it or not, cocaine. Because for that one moment when I got high, the first time it lasted 8 hours. For I'd say about 8 months of coke, I overdosed on August 2nd, 2003. And was on the floor. I went blind. My heart was beating so fast. And I literally saw myself in a coffin. And people were walking up to my coffin saying she was just a whore, just a hoe, just a prostitute. And it's like, my roots, I have Lutheran roots. And so I just cried and I said, Jesus, get me out of this. And if you do, I'll help the girls. I'll help all of them.
Wow.
I made that promise to him. And I don't know if I was really going to do it or not at the moment. Because when you're scared to death and you're on the cliff or you're in the foxhole in the war, you will say anything to get out of that situation. I did do that. And then probably about a year later, I started our first outreach towards ladies just like me, ladies of the night, so to speak.
Wow.
And I had my epiphany. But during that time, it was hell. I was healing. And trauma's real.
Right.
And trauma was a giant sore on my whole body that I couldn't see myself. And it starts with fight, flight, freeze, fawning. And those things are, oh my gosh, they take your cortisol levels so high that it's so unhealthy that I actually developed, between 95 and 97, I developed cancer of my lymphatic system.
Right. And that'll happen. I mean, when your cortisol level, your cortisol level is supposed to be high first thing in the morning to get your body going. But when it's consistently like that,
it never went to bed.
And that's not good, right? And you know that because it causes adrenal fatigue.
Yes.
And then at the point in time it causes adrenal fatigue, it gets to a point where it's irreversible, and then a lot of diseases can develop.
Yes.
And those are things we work with a lot of patients out of our wellness centers, our clinics for that specifically. But it's interesting you saying that, relating it to a specific line of work of what can happen internally, because a lot of people are always focused more on the external of what's happening. But internally, there's a lot of work that has to be done as you're going through that trauma. Now, let me ask you this. You mentioned Jesus, right? Did you always have a spiritual belief and a spiritual connection throughout your entire process?
I could say yes and no to that, because I'm going to be completely raw and honest. I was mad. I was mad at my father, so I disconnected from God completely.
Okay.
I felt like I had a relationship as a little girl. I know this sounds insane, but I was watching some concert with Johnny Cash.
Okay.
When I was very little, maybe 4 years old, and Billy Graham came on talking about if you don't believe in God, you're going to go to hell. And I was like, no, I'm going to believe in God. So I had that connection. And then when I was being abused by a neighbor, believe it or not, sexually abused and being filmed, I think I'm in and out of that. I'm working through that trauma right now, by the way. Isn't that crazy? I am working through that memory in my life that started everything from cascading downward into adrenal fatigue, which is the trauma and the pain and the abuse. But that relationship, the memory of the first time I really felt, and it's called the Holy Spirit, and some people call it the source, some people call it the universe.
Right.
But there's that force that is the good force, and it's full of light,
right,
and love and peace, and it takes your adrenal glands, calms them down, and there's a certain tone that's used, even in music. They've proven a tone that can get your body into this relaxed state of tranquility. Some call it nirvana. Some say nothingness. For me, it's this beautiful state of heaven.
Yeah.
Heaven on earth. It's like I'm in another dimension. And that is what I believe continues to, by the way, heal me.
That's a powerful feeling.
I'm still in healing. Yeah. I really am. Yeah. As you look at me, you see, I'm still healing. There's parts of me that want to take my eyelashes off, wash all my makeup off, get into some cozy pajamas, and take off my shoes and take off all the glitter and just really be myself in front of you. That's part of healing.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on that. I'm afraid to, I don't want to start crying, but I'm still, I'm still afraid to show the world everything, but I'm working on it.
Well, that's the most important part, being able to work on it, right? And one of the things you mentioned is that feeling of tranquility, right? In the world of Bioquantum, there's a lot of different frequencies.
Yes.
And when you talk about healing, and you're doing a lot of things in a safe house to create these type of environments for healing. But in the world of Bioquantum, there's many different frequencies that allow your body to heal, right? And get you in that certain state. And we work with a lot of that different stuff. But through meditation is one of them. And even through music, there's even, when you look at different healing modalities like sound baths, where they have the big bowls and they're making the different.
Yes.
And that's
I've been involved in one of those before. Incredible.
Right? It's a good, and even when you hit different sensories, different senses in your body with burning sage and things of that nature. So what you're doing and what you're talking about is a real thing. Because if you go back 20 years ago, a lot of people was like, oh, is that witchcraft or is that hocus pocus? And it's not.
I don't think it is. I've experienced such transformation. And I recently, about a year ago, started going, maybe about 2 years ago, started going to, it's called EES. So it's energy, I'm probably saying it wrong. So EES. And what it is, it's light therapy.
Oh, light therapy.
And you sit in this chair, or you can lay down, and you listen to the music in the background. But the most important thing in the room are these lights. And Sandra has designed this system, she's a scientist, to counteract radiation poisoning.
Wow.
It's amazing. And I want to bring our ladies to this. They've been offering to do it for free, and to get them into this place where when you get into this room and you have the lights and you lay there and you just meditate, pray, whatever is coming to your mind, and you think of good things. Obviously, you're not going to think of the bad things that happened to you, but you just rest and you let your mind just open up. And I am telling you, when I've walked out of there, I feel like a different person. I can't explain. It's kind of like, in a way, a church experience. The music, the prayers, but it's ramped up to a different level because it's a frequency.
Right.
I believe there is a frequency that those lights and those, it's a quantum sort of like switch in your cells. It's telling you, okay, her machines, EES, tells your body to go back to the original DNA design.
Wow. Amazing.
It's resetting your DNA.
Yeah.
And it's wow.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Wow.
That's a real thing.
So do you guys do that, something like that?
We do different light therapy. We do guided meditation with special headsets that we use one that's called Brain Tap, where it actually gives off different frequencies depending on what you're trying to heal.
Right.
You know,
I've heard of that brain tapping.
And it puts you in different states, puts your brain in different states, because really, especially us that are consistently on the go, we're hustling,
Right.
you know, doing business, like our brains never stop.
I'm always
right?
like that. Can you tell?
Yeah. I'm like that too, so I get it. And it gets to a point where the only way to really get the brain to rest and reset is by getting it into the delta state.
Yes.
And it's not easy to get into the delta state. Like myself, I tried meditating just on my own, and I can't do it, you know? So I need guided meditation.
When you say delta, is that the state right before REM sleep? Is it in between?
So delta wave, so there's the alpha, beta, delta. So
Yes.
so they're different states, and they all have certain benefits of it, but you're still awake in delta state. It's just letting the brain actually just relax.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like where you're not even thinking about anything, you know? And it's tough. It's very tough to get to that.
Just like I told you, I want the world to see the real me. And I can't do that until I let my brain say it's okay. You're still beautiful. You aren't what you are on the outside.
Right.
Your soul is wanting to come out and blossom in front of the world.
Exactly.
And it can't do that if you've got the mask on, right?
Right.
And for us women, that's hard.
Right.
That's hard. We all have heard of the campaign that Miss Wonderful, the Baywatch girl, I don't want to say her name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
That did a rebellious thing, and I'm so proud of her to come in front of the world and just show her real self when she's been such a sex symbol.
It's not an easy thing for anyone to do.
Yeah.
You know, for women, men, anyone. You know, it's we, especially in this digital age that we live in, where everything's social media and people only see what you're posting on social media. It's like there's a true
The best
self,
version.
right? Yeah, and even like the stressors you deal with on a day-to-day basis, like it's not always good and peachy. It's not always, you know, these blossoming flowers out there and the beautiful beaches and the palm trees. Like it's nice to think about paradise all the time, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to even get to paradise.
You just said it. When you're thinking about paradise, I have this reoccurring dream. I dream every night. I love it.
That's awesome.
And some dreams are dark, but some dreams I'm going to this place. And if you could understand what this means. And it's this beautiful place way up north somewhere. It's not cold. It's a very humid climate, but there's white rocks and sand and a little bit of like red, but the water is this crystal clear blue. And it's a place where people go to just lay and rest. There's palm trees there, but I really believe that this is a place that God has put in my spirit, in my soul, my mind, to remind me that what we have here on the earth, you could see, because I love the Caribbean and any island that I can come to and go to and visit and stay. But that's not always reality, right?
Right.
So when you're in the desert like this, how do you take your mind and transform it into that space?
Right.
And I think that's what you're talking about, the delta space.
Being able to have the proper guidance to get into that state is amazing. It's what you mentioned earlier, where you just like, it's almost you just let go,
Right.
you know, and you feel free
Yes.
at that point. And that's what we need. We all need that. So that brings me to segue to the next part that I want to talk about on some of the things that you're doing. Specifically with the nonprofit, with the Safe House. I want to talk about that because a lot of people are struggling through a lot of the things that you went through, a lot of the trauma, day-to-day trauma. And anyone who's listening to us talk here, they might be going through it, or they might know someone who's very close to them going through it. And when people hit those certain stages in life, they don't even know how to get past or get out of it, you know? So I want you, as the expert who's gone through it, who's helping many, many people get through that, talk about how people can actually go through it and what you're doing to this community, this environment, to these women that are going through the trauma, and the things that you're doing to really bring them back home, right?
So within myself, and this is what I try to teach within my own personal, very real experience, was realizing that I needed to stop doing what I was doing to myself. You know, the choice that I made and then got trapped in slavery. How do you get out of slavery? Because even if you leave your trafficker, and I say this to all the women out there and the little boys and girls, if you leave your abuser, that abuse follows you. It stays right here and right here, and it connects, and that is the trauma, and it talks to the rest of your body. So the one thing that I remember doing that really got me out of that space the first time was that prayer and that surrender. When you said that earlier, that was key. That surrendering of the completeness of who you are to God. Give it all, like everything that you know that you have. See, because there's layers of trauma that you don't realize that you're experiencing.
Right.
And that first layer is the surrendering. Okay, I give up. I'm going to stop trying to fix myself. I'm going to stop doing these drugs. I'm going to stop trying to be a corporate businesswoman. I'm just going to stop and try to figure out who I am. Who am I?
Right.
Who made me? And in that process, rest. So that's the first step I did, was rest, surrender. And then start looking into, okay, wait, who created me? This is interesting, because who created me, I know instinctively has the answers. I called my mom and I called my dad. They were like, I don't know what to tell you. We've been praying for you. My dad wasn't really a believer at the time. He didn't believe in God as much as he did before he passed. But they didn't have the answers. Yeah. So what do you do when someone doesn't have the answer? You search for it.
Right.
So I started reading books on near-death experiences. That was very interesting. Still love it.
Wow.
Wow, that blew my mind. I mean,
what were some of the stories that you would read about near-death experiences?
So I remember this doctor that oh gosh, was it a she? Okay, hold on. Anyway, in my mind, I can't remember if it was a he or she, but this person died in an accident with one of those, not a cocoon, it's a canoe, but it's like one of those where you hold your body up and it's got a hole right here.
Like a kayak?
A kayak, that's right. They went over and it flipped over and they were under the water for, I believe it was 15 minutes. It's pretty interesting because this person was a doctor.
Wow.
A neuro doctor.
Really? Wow.
What? Like someone that doesn't, by the way, believe in God, that says this is the brain scientifically, this is the brain and this is what it does. And this person got awakened inside, went to heaven, was on a butterfly, like flying on crazy, kind of sounds like a crazy story, and landed and just got this revelation. I believe the person got to see people that had passed and went to be with God. And it just blew my mind that actually could happen, like the near-death experience. And I read a couple other books like it. There's several that people have died, and there's different experiences. But what I found with all the experiences that I was reading about, some went to a dark, dark place with a lot of fire, and that scared me. But it was a place of going through this tunnel of light. And then where they landed was in this place where they felt completely and totally at peace They didn't want to come back, and they felt loved.
Right.
And they
Wow.
were with the people that had passed. And they were like welcoming them home.
So these are almost like out-of-body experiences.
Yes.
Right? The near-death experiences. And
I believe I had that in a way,
you did.
but not to that level of the peace part. I
Right.
wasn't at peace. When I hit peace was when I got to the hospital after the overdose. And then I felt from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, I felt like this liquid, like transformative type of love just dripped down my body. And I felt like this, like I was floating in a way.
Do you think that was the Holy Spirit within you?
Yes, I do. That's my personal experience, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to make that someone else's experience. But I felt like God was saying, I've never not loved you. I've always loved you. Every room that you walked into, every man you touched in adultery, everything you did to get your money, and every dollar that you surrendered to the man that was telling you he loved you and he was lying, I loved you in that moment. And
Wow.
I never looked at you like a whore. I never thought you were dirty. I never saw you as a prostitute or a trafficking victim. I see you as my daughter, and I love you 100%.
That's powerful. And that's the power of God,
Yes.
right? God is there.
Yes.
He's within you.
Yes.
And he's always there to love you.
And he's always
Yeah.
been. That's what's wild.
Mhm.
Some people don't believe that. The moment you breathe, the moment even in the liquid state as a baby inside the mother's womb, and the breath, the zygote comes into this, and it splits, and then it goes into the, yes, some people don't believe this, but I do. And it turns into this beautiful creation of God. It's like that soul is born,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
it's loved by God.
it is.
No matter what we choose, it's loved by God.
And one of the things that people have to remember is that God still gives us what's called free will,
Yes.
right? So it's our obligation to actually hear God, to actually recognize it. And you have to be an opportunist, right? The same way as opportunities come across us every single day, right? And if you decide to ignore these opportunities in business, you're just not going to be successful in business. Same thing with God and your relationship with God is that you have to be able to open up and listen to God who's within you.
Don't you believe that you were saying the free will? That we can hear God, we can feel God, we can sense God. And some people say, well, it's my intuition, it's my gut. But when you said business, because I've done things with our nonprofit, which I'm, by the way, switching to different realm, a different wavelength of thought process and trying to get money into the nonprofit to have it grow, is this urgency and this like deep sensing of, okay, take a left. Okay, go meet that person. Just like today's interview.
Right.
I felt centered to come here.
Absolutely.
God was like, get there.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5 minutes, Annie. Even if they're going to make you stand in front of the strip and try to call out a girl, do it. You're going to
Yeah.
help these people because they want to hear something that they've never seen or heard before. So do it.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy
Yeah.
that I got to come down here.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm getting the chills thinking about it because you know these are real things. Like
Yeah.
when you're talking about that intuition. Let me ask you something.
And you're a good man, by the way. I sense this peace inside of you. I sense love and just like the word completion. I don't know what that means to you, but I get words.
Yeah.
I'm a seer. Some people call me a seer.
I think completion. It's a work in progress,
Yeah.
right? Myself, I never feel fully complete, right? Because I feel like the mission never stops. Like God has us on this earth to fulfill our purpose through
Yeah.
Him, right? So part of that completion is at the point in time that I cross over to the other side, you know, and I'm no longer here on this earth. So, but yeah, you know,
I think God's saying, though,
what's that?
that you are complete in you and the way He's created you.
Yes.
That your purpose is what you're doing. So that is actually a compliment, I think, coming from the Father.
It is.
The Father, they call them the Father of lights, and we have lights in our city. But the other thing I heard, I know maybe you think I'm crazy. I apologize.
No, absolutely not.
I saw a belt around your waist, and it had been tightened so tight. And He's saying, like, loosen it. It's okay. Loosen it. Be who you really are.
Right.
Be in that moment and embrace it fully. I think that's why you're here in Vegas. This is a portal. I'm telling you. This is a portal. Sin City's a portal.
I believe it.
For good and evil. And I'm telling you, it's so cool because I am so intrigued by what you guys are doing. I want to hear more about it. I want our ladies to experience the fullness that they can.
You know, so a little bit about myself that I didn't get a chance to kind of explain who I am, right? Besides being the president and founder of Liquivita, which is a wellness company throughout the nation.
Okay.
Yeah, we do more of what people consider alternative medicine, if you will, where we're focused on the root cause of what's happening, but it's a whole body approach. So we have different technologies, diagnostics that we do. We do very comprehensive blood work, looking at genetics, DNA, all of that stuff. But prior to that, I'm a retired fireman of 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked as a firefighter paramedic.
You rescued people.
I rescued a lot of people. I've rescued people from trafficking. I've been into hotel rooms where women were shot dead, right, that were trafficking. So I saw a lot of this.
How much vicarious did you experience?
What's that?
Vicarious trauma.
Vicarious trauma. I don't know what that is.
Oh, this is interesting. So when someone is a rescuer like you, and you're still doing it, by the way, you're just doing it different ways.
Yeah, I'm doing it different way. I retired 6 years ago after 12 years.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What a beautiful life you've already led. Vicarious trauma happens when you experience other people's pain and you see other people's pain and it becomes part of your pain.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah.
In working in the medical field, specifically emergency medicine, where when you get called out, it's only to the worst of the worst. It's the person's worst time, right? Shootings, stabbings, ejections out of vehicles, rapes, everything you can think of. And what happens, and even with the person who's just dealing with something, let's say, for example, cancer, right? What ends up happening is you start to absorb a lot of that negativity of what's happening within that person. And one of the things that you have to learn throughout going through that process, and I want to talk about, you working with a lot of the people that are going through trafficking now, because same thing will happen with you. You absorb a lot of that negative energy. Is how do you detox?
So that's called soul care.
Right.
You need that soul care.
You need a lot of it. I remember I'd be on 24-hour shifts, and some of these shifts were rough.
Brutal.
I mean, the things I would see, the things I would hear. I'll tell you a little quick story. I remember I was working, we work 24 hours shifts. We stay at the firehouse, get called out for any 911 calls.
You guys probably never sleep. Just waiting for that.
Sleep deprivation is a real thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was the day before Easter Sunday.
Okay.
And I was getting off duty on Easter Sunday. And right before I was getting off duty, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. We get off duty at 8 o'clock in the morning. We get a call for someone who's unconscious, not breathing. We get to the house, and there's two young kids. One's 7 years old, and the other one's 5 years old. And they're saying, "My mommy, my mommy, my mommy." And the mom overdosed in her sleep. She took some pills, overdosed. So these kids are ready to enjoy Easter Sunday. Go, egg hunting, do the whole thing. And they've lost their mom Easter Sunday. I would host Easter Sunday at my house. And that was the roughest Easter Sunday for me to have all of my family there.
Wow.
And, before dinner, I led, prayer.
Right.
And I brought that up to everybody. I actually, during the prayer, I actually said, we're lucky and fortunate
we're
to
thankful.
Be here. Very thankful. And you start to kind of recognize other people's traumas that you're bringing in. And Easter, since then, this was many years ago. This was probably about 10 years ago. Easter has never been the same since I experienced that Easter Sunday on duty.
Wow.
And it just you bring that, and you have to figure out how to deal with it, how to detox from it, and how to actually control those type of traumas and type of energy that you start to absorb. So I want to talk about how you deal with a lot of the energy that you're absorbing, working with the young girls that are out here.
And that is so difficult, but such a real topic of vicarious trauma. You have to take care of yourself. One thing that I do after a day's work, I get on my treadmill. It's part of my little connection to God. And I pray. I play music, but I also do prayers with my husband of letting things go and giving it back to God. And of course, our bodies naturally don't want to always do that. And I am not perfect, and I am still learning, Sam, how to do this.
Right.
You can't work with human beings and not feel and empathize and be passionate and loving about the pain that they're going through. And that's why for me, the center is always, I think about the cross. I think about what hell that man that walked on our earth had to go through for all of us, right?
Right.
We all know what Easter means, but I always try, when I can remember to give it all to him. And it's odd that you say this, because I literally got handed a book called Soul Care.
Soul Care.
And I don't know who wrote it, but I want to read it because I believe that that is a deficit in this community of really knowing how to get grounded and centered and back to ourselves so that we can recover from the vicarious trauma that we always absorb around us. And
Right.
even though it's the work that we do, it's part of the work. If you're into this work, like being a fireman, doing soul work with people, getting people recentered, getting people into, learning about frequencies and getting their body back into the state of normal, getting out of cortisol, high cortisol stress levels, getting it to come down so our bodies won't go into disease, cancer, whatever else, diabetes. Gosh, so many different things that can happen with your body being in stress mode, is realizing that we're human too and that we can only take so much.
Right.
Stop bringing so many sources of pain. Know when to say no. Just, you have to know your body. Know when your limit is. I know sometimes we have to take that 24-hour shift. That is absolutely real. But at the same time, your body can't die for another human just to make sure that they're okay. There will be another human to step in your place. Make sure you have those soldiers lined up,
Right.
ready and quick, because your body needs that rest. It needs the physical rest. It needs the spiritual rest. It needs eating the right food, getting your mind clear of what you just experienced with this trauma survivors, and not rejecting, but processing.
Right.
And like I said earlier, surrendering and letting go. And that is a skill, by the way. It's a skill of surrender. I hear my husband's voice in my head. He always says, it's a skill to surrender. It is. It's a practice. If you don't, you're just recreating, maybe not the same situation, but you're recreating the stress and the trauma that you yourself graduated from. Right? And yes, we now are giving, we now are sacrificing ourselves, like we would say Jesus did, right? But at the same time, don't commit suicide with your soul just because you're trying to help others. Train others, like you're doing. Train others how to help this population you're working with.
Right.
Duplicate yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we're human.
It's powerful. Yeah. And that's the truth of the matter. It's we're human, and we have to be able to train ourselves and put ourselves through that process. So the safe house, I want to talk about it.
Destiny house.
Destiny house. The Destiny house. Man, that's even more powerful than safe house.
So I'll tell you
that.
why I created it. I started bringing ladies home to my own house. This is crazy. After doing, we call it outreach. I would just give them my card. It would say, Annie, call me if you need help. And they would call me. They had nowhere to go. And so I started bringing them to, I had roommates at the time from Bulgaria. I helped them get in the country. I got them they got their visas, and it was awesome. And they said, oh, you can stay with us. I was like, oh, thank you. At the time, I was not living in a good situation, so I had to leave. But I started bringing them to my home. And that was probably not the best thing. But prior to this, I had lost, unfortunately, a pregnancy. And her name was Destiny. And I just had this, my soul was crushed over it. I was on drugs at the time. I didn't know I was pregnant until after I had the miscarriage. It's crazy. And I named her Destiny. And so I knew that everyone is born with a destiny, right? We get to choose where we go. We get to choose. And our destination isn't always clear, but we can hear God's voice. So the Destiny House, the first one that was official, was in a different part of town, but it was a safe house. And it's where ladies come, the one that we have now, which is larger. We got gifted a larger property, where they can come and dream again, get rid of the nightmares, discover who they are, develop into the person that they know they're supposed to be. They realize that their life has a perfect design so that they can walk into their righteous destiny. So that's what Destiny House is for. It addresses every area of their life from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet. Before they leave, they have their, obviously they're healed to a stable point where they continue healing into their, destiny. And then they have their education, and they walk out with transportation and a new place to live, which is permanent housing. So, and they stay in our care probably as long as they want to. We offer them lifetime care, lifetime case management. Not everyone takes it, but a lot of them do. Stay in touch with us. And we basically, you're building someone's life up from, it's kind of like childhood. You show them why they got into what they did, how they got abused, and then you teach them how to handle their trauma and how to instead respond to the trauma and to ground themselves, but to have that spiritual also connection. And there's a self-actualization pyramid. I'm sure you've seen it, the pyramid of having food, clothing, shelter, self-actualization at the very top. And that is the spiritual part where we're connected back to God.
Right.
And that now that we're grounded and centered again, it's funny, it's because it's shaped of a cross, that now we can go live our lives differently, and we can actually live the life that God had intended us to live, right, which is his destiny, which I believe is to love people and to show them the good news that guess what? This is a tent and we are going somewhere one day when we die. And it's a beautiful place. And if we can tell each other about that place, hey, there's a reason for your life. Hey, there's a reason. You don't have to be used and enslaved and part of the system,
Right.
The American dream is something real. We're living it right now. We're sitting in a beautiful hotel. This was someone's American dream. What does that look like for everybody?
Right.
Instead, I call it God's dream. What does God's dream look like for you? What did he design for you? Because your soul is forever.
Yeah.
It is never going to die. It will be forever, forever. Whatever they believe, it's going to not stop.
Right.
And I'm actually dealing with a lot of people right now in my life that are thinking through suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation. And it's because they don't realize that God loves them, or they're suffering so much in the physical realm, they don't know how to handle the pain.
Right.
So what do?
They just want to cut it off. I get it.
Yeah.
Or they want to sedate.
It
Drugs,
makes
alcohol,
me
other
just
things.
so extremely sad. And that's the part of me that can be pulled back into that vicarious trauma state because I want to heal them. And I know I have a healing gift, by the way, too. But I have this gift of seeing a vision for them. I'm a visionary anyway.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
God created me to be one.
What's your sign?
I'm a Libra.
A Libra. Okay.
So justice.
Nice.
Justice. The scales. But my master number, I have a master number in numerology. Do you know what yours is?
I've never dissected to figure out what my master number is.
Because God is a God of numbers, right?
Yeah.
There's a numbers
What's
in the
yours?
Bible. I'm a 22.
That's crazy.
That's a master builder. So
Crazy.
Look it up later.
Actually,
it's very
I was going to
interesting.
just say my number's 22.
Okay. It is?
Uh-huh.
You got to be kidding me.
22.
Dude, what? We were supposed to meet.
Yeah.
Deuces, baby.
Yeah. And actually, my one of my healers that does manual therapy, her number's 22 also.
Do you know 22 is a master builder? It's a master builder. Now, Don't get mad at me, Christians out there, getting mad at Annie talking about numbers.
That's actually really crazy. It's amazing.
They're going to call it witchcraft. It's not witchcraft to me.
No, it's because, and that's why I asked you what your number was. Mine is literally 22.
Yeah.
And my birthday is the 22nd of January. I'm an Aquarius.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's really odd. Well, you're the other number of water. I mean, the sign of water. And I'm looking right over there at the waterfall.
Yeah.
So it's really important that people remember when we were born that the solstice, all of our planets and all of our stars in our galaxy and our galaxy itself was aligned to our birth. So the minute, the day, the hour, the month, the year, whatever you've been born was divinely intended, right? Some people would argue with me and say, what about rape? I don't have any control of that. I don't. I know that that's evil. It's horrible. But I do know this, that God is a creator.
Right.
And so we have to trust that God has a plan, even in that really dark, scary space.
Right.
And I've had abortions. I've asked God for forgiveness. I've done it all. Okay?
This is where you've built the experience.
Yes.
And are able to actually work with people based off of real life experiences. For me, one of the things that's the toughest when I see people become mentors, coaches, healers, or even guiders for people are people that have never experienced any of it. Like, how can you, this is not something that you can just go in a textbook and then try to go into it.
You're into it.
You
know what? You're teaching what you have learned yourself, because 12 years of fire emergencies, and not just that, because don't you also, because of fire, doing work with people the buildings are on fire, obviously, but did you do EMT work, EMS work?
I was a firefighter paramedic. Everyone's cross-trained in South Florida.
Of
So
course.
all the medical emergencies, and that was the toughest part for me. It said I became a product to a broken, corrupted medical system.
Wow.
Because you get that initial 911 call for someone having that acute illness, and you transport them to the hospital, to the quote unquote, where the experts are.
You get to hear
at.
everything.
And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you go back to the house. Because remember, you work in a specific neighborhood. You get to know people. People know you. You go to the grocery
John,
store.
hey Jimmy, hey Sally, how you doing?
So all of a sudden, you're taking John or Jimmy back to the hospital 6 months later. And then all of a sudden, you're picking them up every other month, to then every single month, to then every other week, to then every week, to every other day. And you start thinking, it's like, why is this person getting worse and circling down the drain? It's that our medical system is broken, right? It's not a system, it's a sick care system. It's not a well care system. We're not here to make people better. We're here to just build the insurance, put them on a pill to stabilize the signs and symptoms, but the actual support and help they need wasn't there. So what ended up happening is I became a fireman at a very young age. Right out of high school, I went through fire academy, paramedic
What made
school.
you drawn to this? Just curious.
I knew my calling early.
Okay.
I became a lifeguard at age 15.
Oh, wow.
Swim instructor to avoid kids from drowning.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted to become a fireman right out of high school, firefighter, paramedic. And for me, I wanted the most rewarding job possible. That most rewarding job possible was being a hero, right? Being there for the person.
That's so good. Who
that
taught
time
you to
of
be a
year.
hero?
It was actually my favorite TV show was Rescue 911 growing
Oh
up.
my gosh, I love that show.
But what ended up happening is only 10% of the 911 calls was me actually running into a burning building, was me extricating somebody out of an entrapped vehicle, right? 90% of the 911 calls were this whole broken system, where I ended up getting to a certain stage 12 years into my career, and I told myself, this can't be it. This is not what God's going to use me for, not to be a product of the problem. What I need to be used for is preventing people from even getting
So
here.
good. So
And
you
then,
graduated.
I graduated. Right.
You saw another calling that you already had, actually.
And there's many more graduations
There's levels.
to come.
There's levels. Now, you're going to love what I'm about to tell you right now. We're going to still try to keep it going. My friend, Tina Ticola, she's on our board of directors. So we tried to get a new law passed yesterday. And guess what it is?
What's that?
Training First Responders Human Trafficking 101.
Wow.
How to recognize and respond to a possible victim of trafficking over the phone and in person. And hasn't passed yet, but I hope it does, because
that would be amazing.
I had a couple people get me, and they had me sitting in the ambulance on the gurney. And as soon as the police pulled up, they looked at my record. I had 24 arrests prior. They asked me, did I have the broom in my hand? I did. What happened? I hit the car. Yes, you did, with the broom. It's my ex-trafficker. My neighbor said, she hit him in the head with the broom. I did. I was reacting. He had taken all my money and beaten me up and choked me, and I had blood coming everywhere. And then they proceeded to tie me down to the gurney, and they took me to the hospital, put me in a dark room. They did stitches on my finger. And then because it was torn apart from being locked in the room with my pimp locked me in a dark room, the bathroom. And I opened up the door with the top of the porcelain piece of the toilet. I broke it, and then it busted my finger open. So I got tied to the gurney and then tied to a bed, and then got brought to get mad when I think about it, the jail, and looked at as a criminal and charged with domestic violence. And then I had to go to anger management classes, which was insane because my trafficker was laughing at me the whole time during the classes and laughing when the police pulled away.
And that could have been an opportunity for those first responders to get you out of that mess.
They'd look up my record, and you're absolutely right. Those paramedics would have had a different reaction. They would have said, wait, no. She's not going to jail. Let's talk to this guy over here. Let's bring her to the hospital, but let's see what really happened. Let's interview. So had they paused to get to see what really, my neck was covered with scratches and blood. And when I got home out of the jail, I had bruises all on the bottom of my body, like dark from him slamming me on the ground prior to the police and the ambulance coming.
Wow.
So yeah, education is key. I had never, by the way, ever raised my hand to anyone in my life, but I think I snapped. And shortly after that, I got away from that trafficker. That was my second one, by the way. I taught him how to be a pimp. How dumb. Just to cover so my other pimp wouldn't chase me around town, because he had went through red lights and with his gun and was shooting at me in the car that I bought him. And I decided that I didn't want to die. So I made up this guy that I met. He was at a show and working as a dancer, and I taught him how to look like a pimp and pretend that he was my pimp. And he actually became one.
Wow.
Which is crazy. My own doing, so to speak, but not, because if it was a real man would never do that. A real man would say, okay, stop. Why are you working in the sex industry? Why are you being sold? What are you doing? Stop.
Yeah.
So.
But when you look back, Steve Jobs has a saying where he says you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards.
Absolutely true.
And it brought you to where you're at today, where you're doing amazing things.
Thank you.
As we wrap up here, Annie, if there's anyone listening to our message today and resonates and gets connected, what is one thing that you can leave them off with?
I would say never, ever give up. There is hope. There is hope, and they are loved. They are loved by their Creator. God loves them so much, and He's waiting for them to just surrender. Say that prayer, help, because it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
There's people like you and I out there now.
Absolutely.
We're going to come help them.
And where can people find you?
They can find me at pinkchair.org and just click on our website, and then social media. I'm all over social media at Annie Lobert, and then the other tag name that we can say probably on the screen that I can't say to you.
We'll put it there.
Yes,
so people
go
can
ahead.
see it.
But yeah, if they just Google my name, they'll see me, Annie Lobert, and you'll find me I'm on TikTok now. I just started. Funny, right? Instagram, Facebook. What else? X.
Amazing.
And are there new ones? Because I'm on Snapchat.
It seems like they're always coming out with new ones.
There's too many. I'm like, I can't keep track of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll find me.
So Annie, it was a pleasure to have
you.
here to be able to talk about these amazing things and the amazing things that you're doing. It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
too as well. God
Guys,
bless you.
This just shows you that it doesn't matter what your background is, the things that you've gone through, the things that you do for a living. There's always a positive side to it, and there's a positive outcome as long as you recognize it and you have the right people that you're surrounded with. We're here, Las Vegas, where there's a lot of sin that happens, but it doesn't mean that you can't come out in a positive way on the other side. Thank you, Annie.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.